So what if I told you Psquare didn't actually break up because of Peter and Paul? For years, people have blamed both brothers for breaking up Psquare, but there was a third person involved, pulling the strings all along. Now, I know what you're thinking. We all saw the brothers constantly fight on social media and throwing shades at each other. But here's the part no one talks about. Behind every Psquare hit, every tour, and every business decision, someone else was making decisions that would soon turn the brothers into enemies. When you look at it closely, things start to get so much darker than just sibling rivalry. And here's how it all began. So it's 1999, and two brothers, obsessed with music, decide to start their own group. Before then, the brothers were part of a group called Smooth Criminals. The old group had Peter and Paul Okoye, as well as some of their friends, but now, the brothers had decided to fly solo. The Okoye brothers were very talented. On one hand, there was Paul, a brilliant songwriter and singer who was more involved with the creative side of things. On the other hand, Peter was an exceptional dancer who used his tremendous energy to bring songs to life. On their own, the brothers were good, but together, they complemented each other almost perfectly. This balance would be the basis of their success in the coming years, and it didn't take too long for them to impress. In fact, all it took was one music contest. The brothers gained so much attention with their electrifying dance style that complemented their singing in a unique way that most Nigerians at the time weren't exactly used to. But it wasn't until they won the famous Grab the Mic talent show that their career really took off. Throughout the competition, Psquare had won the hearts of many Nigerians as well as top industry players, including the show sponsors Benson and Hedges. So, the competition didn't just put them on the map, it got them their very first sponsorship deal. And with that kind of backing behind them, they wasted no time dropping their debut album, Last Night. Last Night wasn't like some massive chart-topping album or anything. But here's the thing, it did exactly what it needed to do. It showed everyone what Psquare was all about and the unique style they could bring to the table. Additionally, the album featured some solid hits. Songs like Señorita and Igbedu became very popular amongst Nigerians, and soon enough, Psquare was making waves all over Nigeria. And this was down to their unique ability to blend sounds in a way nobody else was doing at the time. They basically took sounds we were hearing from American artists and found a way to make them feel African, make them feel Nigerian, and that separated them from everyone else. Before Psquare came through, R&B in Nigeria didn't really have that African soul to it, but they changed all that. They took genres that felt foreign and made them fit our Nigerian reality. That ownership, that confidence to adapt Western style to our everyday experience to create good music, well, that's what made them unstoppable. By 2005, Psquare had become so successful that they now had their own record label, Square Records. Their second studio album, Get Squared, was released around this time, and with the help of popular music marketer T-Joe, it sold over 1 million copies within just 6 days of its release. The album had various hit songs like Busybody, Temptation, and Say Your Love, hits that many people can still remember even today. With their new album, Psquare went from being upcoming talented artists to great artists. The unique R&B style helped them make waves all over Nigeria and throughout Africa. Suddenly, the brothers were getting booked for shows in different parts of Africa. Awards were coming in, and most of all, they were making lots of money. Now here's where things start getting interesting. Since the brothers owned their own label, they were the ones handling all the money and business decisions. But obviously, they wanted to focus on actually making music, right? So they needed someone they could trust to manage everything else, and that's where Jude stepped in. Jude Okoye was the oldest of the three brothers. He was a music producer and a businessman, and he had way more experience in the industry than Peter and Paul did at the time. Plus, he was family. Like, who else would you trust with your money if not your own blood? It made perfect sense on paper. With this setup, it looked like Psquare had the perfect formula. Peter and Paul making hits, and their big brother handling the business side of things. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, a lot. But at least it was good for a while. You see, after the success of Get Squared, Psquare had become a continental brand, well known in Africa for their ability to bring singing and dancing together in a truly interesting way. They also sang with a type of energy that was unmatched by any other duo. So when they dropped their third album, Game Over, in 2007, it was everywhere. It had hits on top of hits, Roll It, Ifunanya, and then of course, No One Like You, which basically became the wedding song in Nigeria. Literally every wedding reception from 2007 to 2010 had the song on repeat. Then you had Do Me, which became a club favorite. Like, DJs knew that once they played Do Me, the dance floor was about to go crazy. Game Over was the album that proved that Psquare was going to be around for a really long time. It also earned them a couple of awards, like the MTV Africa Music Award and the Channel O Music Video Awards in 2008. But the brothers weren't satisfied with just dominating Africa. They wanted more. They had basically conquered the entire continent at this point, so naturally, they set their eyes on the international scene. Their fourth studio album dropped about 2 years later, and that's when they really started expanding globally. The album enjoyed huge success and even landed them their very first US tour, but it was album number 5 that really broke them into the international market. The fifth album opened doors to massive collaborations with artists like Akon and Rick Ross. At this point, everyone could see that Psquare had become a global brand, and Akon, he saw it too. So he did what any smart businessman would do and signed the brothers to his label, Convict Music. But the brothers didn't stop there. They also locked in a distribution deal with Universal to get their music out to every corner of the world, which was a pretty smart move by the brothers, and it worked almost too well. By 2014, Psquare was literally rubbing shoulders with the biggest names in the game. Their album Double Trouble featured American rapper T.I., Jermaine Jackson, and also choreographer Dave Scott. Songs like Personally, Alingo, and Testimony were making waves globally, not just in Africa, everywhere. Once again, the brothers did what they always did, drop hits after hits. They seemed completely unstoppable at this point. Like, they had this formula for creating songs that fans couldn't get enough of, and it looked like they were just getting started. After Double Trouble blew up, global brands started throwing endorsement deals at them left and right. These companies saw how Psquare could pull massive crowds and they wanted in. The brothers also kicked off their first ever world tour, performing in different countries across the globe. Psquare had officially become a worldwide phenomenon. But here's where things get interesting. Right around this time, when everything seemed perfect, cracks were starting to show behind the scenes. Things got so bad between the brothers that Peter and Paul actually got into a physical fight, like a real fist fight. After that, Peter packed up his family and moved out of their shared Squareview mansion. To Peter, he felt like he was being pushed to the sideline in Psquare. From his perspective, Jude was clearly favoring Paul in every decision. Peter felt like he didn't have that much of a say in how things were run, and that was eating at him. But it wasn't just about business. Peter was also fed up with how his brothers kept disrespecting his wife Lola. Now, Lola's story is actually pretty interesting. She was significantly older than Peter. We're talking like 9 years older. They met right after Psquare 1 grabbed the mic back in 2001, and at the time, she was working with the marketing agency connected to Benson & Hedges. Yeah, the same Benson & Hedges that ended up sponsoring Psquare's first album. Despite the age gap, Peter and Lola just clicked. When he moved to Lagos and was basically starting from scratch, she was there supporting him. They eventually started dating and took it all the way to marriage. However, from day one, his brothers didn't like Lola. The age difference was a huge issue for them. They couldn't get past the fact that Lola was older. In their minds, she was this older woman who had lived her life and was now settling down with a much younger guy. They just refused to understand what Peter saw in her, and they weren't the only ones that didn't approve of Lola. Even their mother, before she passed away, didn't approve of the relationship either. So Peter wasn't just dealing with his brother's disapproval, he was also going against his late mother's wishes. It's interesting to note that what Peter wanted was simply more say in Psquare, and for his brothers to respect his wife the same way they respected Paul's wife Anita. While Paul was more of an extended family man, Peter tilted towards his own nuclear family. And can we really blame him? I mean, what's a man's primary objective if not to protect his own family? It was Paul and Anita's marriage that wouldn't stand the test of time. Peter, on the other hand, still maintains his relationship with his wife Lola. Now, what many people fail to acknowledge is Jude's role in all of this. Jude had been involved in everything from the start of Psquare. In fact, you could easily credit him for Paul and Peter's interest in music early on, as they would follow him to the studio from a young age when Jude was still trying to become an artist. That's right, Jude was the first to go into music in the family and even managed to release one album. But seeing as he wasn't particularly successful, he moved away from singing and into music production. Jude became a really good videographer, as you notice how Psquare's music video always had that click, that little something that made you watch with so much interest. Yeah, that was Jude. Jude started as their videographer, producer and director, and soon enough, their manager. He was excellent at the first 3 roles, but you see the third bit? Well, it wasn't exactly his forte, as we would see later on. For now, the brothers somehow managed to patch things up after that big fight. They got talking again and even did an interview where they portrayed the entire episode as a simple sibling fight.
It has nothing to do with money, it has nothing to do with women. It's just a normal thing that the way you argue with or quarrel with your siblings, it's normal. People, the only sad thing about it that on this
it got out,
it got out, and people wouldn't have. After when it was happening, we're still performing in shows.
And to think most people believe that. Well, their reunion didn't last too long. In 2016, the brothers once again entered into another fight. This time, it was way bigger than the last and even messier. Peter went on a massive rant on Twitter, complaining about Jude's management and clearly stated that Psquare was Paul and Peter, so it wasn't compulsory that Jude managed them. This time, it seemed like Peter's problem was with Jude, but Paul didn't see it that way. He believed Jude was as instrumental to Psquare as Peter, and he wasn't going to do Psquare without Jude. Part of the things that Peter wasn't comfortable with was the sharing formula. Based on the existing structure, Peter and Paul received a smaller share of the income that Psquare generated, while Jude received more. To Peter, this made no sense. They were the ones out there performing, entertaining people, so why should Jude, whose only job is to manage them and shoot videos, receive more than them? Peter made it clear that if Psquare was to continue, it would have to do so without Jude. Paul, however, saw things differently. He felt that Jude had invested a lot of his time and money to take them where they are today, and it wouldn't be fair to just dump him now that they were making so much money. It's fair to say that Paul was closer to Jude than Peter, and this may have been a driving factor behind some of his actions. As the whole thing lingered on, Paul came out with his own message, a picture that he, Jude and Peter had taken together, but with one small change. He cropped Peter out of the picture and replaced him with the image of a studio. It was his way of saying he was with Jude on this. As time went on, it was looking more likely that this would be the final split. Soon enough, Peter adopted the stage name Mr. P, and Paul went with Rude Boy. As the situation seemed to be getting more and more tense, big industry players had to step in to get Psquare back together. And somehow, it worked. The brothers were back together once again. But there was still one problem. Although the brothers got back together, they had not yet addressed the issues that led to their 2 public feuds. And in that kind of situation, all that was needed was one wrong word, one misstep, one gesture taken wrongly, and the brothers would be back to fighting each other. In the meantime, Psquare did what we knew them for, release hit after hit. They gave us songs like Nobody Ugly and Bank a Lot. The way they sang with so much energy and rhythm would make you think they had resolved all the bad blood between them, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It didn't take too long for the brothers to be back at it again.
If I call your house, what will happen? Man, bring my coffee. Repeat them again, Jude. If your coffee come. If I call nigga, you don't repeat it. See, repeat it. In front of your lawyer. Peter, shame on you. In front of your lawyer. Peter, boss say shame on you. No, stop it. Boss say shame on you. In front of your lawyer. I shame you.
Everything started with a cryptic post by Paul that seemed to be aimed directly at Peter's wife Lola. Paul wrote something along the lines of how only a woman can come into a peaceful situation and destroy everything. And that post set everything on fire. Peter wasn't having any of it. He immediately fired back, accusing Jude of threatening to kill him and even threatening to shoot his wife. According to Peter, this happened right in front of Paul and the former First Lady of Cross River State, and all Paul could do was stand and watch what happened. Throughout all these fights, one name kept coming up over and over again: Jude Okoye. And the question everyone should be asking is this: why was Jude so determined to stay in the picture, even when it was clear he was the main source of the conflict between the twins? Did he just love them so much, or was there more to his obsession with Psquare? Peter, sensing the hostile environment within Psquare, decided to split from his brother and fully adopt the stage name Mr. P, while Paul chose to go with Rude Boy and Jude as his manager. In Peter's letter, he made it clear that he had tried everything to make it work, but Paul wasn't cooperating. He mentioned how Paul cancelled their US tour without even discussing it with him first. But more than anything, Peter emphasized that he couldn't continue in a situation where his family was being threatened and disrespected. While the split was very disappointing for fans, at least now everyone could move on from the Psquare drama. Mr. P, due to his more commercial appeal, bagged a lot of endorsements, including a deal with Mary Beth. He also acted in a handful of movies like Genevieve's Lionheart and Netflix's Shantytown. He, however, wasn't as successful as Rude Boy in the music side of things. When it came to pure singing and lyrics, Paul had that edge. Rude Boy continued to release hits after hits. His pen game and dancing ability complemented each other well. And although he was nowhere near the level of Psquare, he was still doing well himself. For the first time since the issue started, Jude came out publicly to address the whole situation with Peter, and what he said was shocking. He made a video explaining how he didn't understand what Peter had against him. According to him, he had never done anything to Peter to warrant the kind of hate that he had for him. Jude sounded genuinely hurt and confused. He said he hadn't spoken to Peter, hadn't communicated with him, hadn't even seen him by mistake since the split from Psquare in September 2017. From Jude's perspective, he was the victim here. He felt like he was being kicked out of something he helped build from scratch. But Jude had conveniently failed to address several issues raised by Peter, like the money sharing formula, the alleged favoritism towards Paul's songs, and the disrespect towards Lola. These were real issues that Peter had raised multiple times. Besides, it was a little too late for that. After the split, the brothers stayed apart for 4 years, and at that point, it really seemed like Psquare was done forever. But then, something unexpected happened. On November 17, 2021, the three brothers released a video that shocked everyone. They were crying, hugging and talking almost like old times. They even announced that they had reconciled once again and that Psquare was officially back. Things started looking very real when they released a new single and announced plans for a world tour. However, at this point, something was different. The fans weren't as excited anymore. I don't know if it was the 4-year gap, and trust me, 4 years is a really long time in the life of an artist, or maybe fans had simply gotten tired of the constant fighting. Whatever the case was, people had clearly moved on from Psquare. Nobody was excited about their reconciliation or even about their new music. People now seem focused on the newer artists that were making waves. And despite Psquare trying to reignite the spark, the more they tried, the more they gave off the energy of upcoming artists struggling to get attention, struggling to put out music that people weren't interested in. Soon enough, Psquare got the message and they gradually shifted from releasing new songs to more live stage performances. Their unique stage energy still helped them pull crowds, including a show at the Royal Albert Hall in London, but they weren't anything close to their peak years. Apparently, their infighting had taken its toll, and the brothers had almost become a shell of themselves with nothing but the name Psquare. Fast forward to 2024, a rumor of another fight began to spread yet again. In May, Paul got remarried to his girlfriend in Abia State, and Peter was noticeably absent. People immediately began to speculate if the brothers were having one of their episodes again, and they hoped it wasn't true. But the rumors were true. The Psquare brothers had fallen out once again, and this time, the situation was much worse than before. Law enforcement agencies got involved. arrests were made, and the EFCC was at the center of it all. Word got out that Peter had facilitated the arrest of his twin brother, Paul, and his elder brother, Jude. He accused them of financial crimes and fraud that involved the diversion of funds meant for Psquare into private accounts. Peter claimed that while Jude was managing Psquare, he secretly set up a company called Northside Music Limited. Now, here's the thing. Northside Music Limited and Northside Entertainment were two entirely different companies. While they sounded almost similar, Northside Entertainment was the official label that Jude used to manage Psquare. Northside Music, on the other hand, was the company that resembled the former only in name. According to Peter, Jude and his wife were listed as directors on this Northside Music Limited, with his wife owning 80% while Jude controlled 20%. Apparently, this company was used to divert Psquare's royalties and control all the money without Peter's knowledge. Now, while there's still no hard evidence, Peter's claims make perfect sense. I mean, why create a mysterious company with a name almost similar to your original company if you had absolutely nothing to hide? But here's the thing. Peter's accusation went beyond diverting royalty payments. He also accused Jude of laundering money through exchange bureaus and buying some very expensive properties. Since the case involved accusations that Jude may have, in fact, been stealing from Peter and Paul, you'd expect Paul to support Peter on this one. But guess what? He stood behind Jude yet again. Jude himself fought back pretty hard. His lawyers tore down Peter's claims one by one and eventually managed to secure bail for Jude on a 50 million naira bond. His 2 passports were also seized by the court to prevent him from fleeing. Yet again, for some reason, the brothers can't seem to put aside their differences. And now the big question is, who's really to blame here? Straight away, some would point fingers at Peter. And why not? The minute Peter got married, he started prioritizing his wife and children while forgetting his original family, that he's supposed to carry all his family along, not rubbing it in their faces that his wife and kids were more important than everyone else. Others criticize Peter for constantly running to social media whenever there are issues, getting law enforcement involved, hiring lawyers, involving the police and the EFCC. Now, while Peter's handling of their family crisis hasn't exactly been good, many people conveniently forget that Jude also had a role to play. He could have unified and united his brothers. But what did he do? He chose a favorite twin and refused to step away even when it became clear he was the center of the conflict between Paul and Peter. And what about Paul, who refused to stand with his twin brother? Instead, he chose to stand with Jude, prioritizing extended family loyalty over the Psquare brand itself. They all played a part in the split, reducing Psquare to a mere relic of the past. And today, the brothers are far from what they could have been, constantly engulfed in family drama. And fans are left to wonder if things could have ended differently, or maybe it was always meant to end this way.